All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Back again, Wolf Sports. Doing a little bit of a new recurring show, hopefully, here. Doing weekend. On Wednesdays, we'll start previewing weekend golf tournaments as we're kind of getting into the thick of golf season here. This week, we have the Houston Open, the Texas Children's Houston Open coming up. So figured it would be a good time to kind of get a few of these going, talk about this a little bit as we kind of trend towards Augusta at the Masters in 2 weeks. So this is kind of when I think maybe a lot of golf casuals might start tuning in. So yeah, we figured it would be fun. We have a friend here, Green Means Go, to kind of help us out, provide some insights and analysis into some data and research and stuff, into each course on a weekly basis. So yeah, Green, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Zach. I would love if I could get some Texas weather here so I could get out and golf. I'm in the Midwest and it's a little brutal, even though it's late March. So um, I would love to be able to go out and play alongside these guys, even though it looks like the weather may be a little iffy for them. I've heard a lot of talks about AM wave versus PM wave, and I hear a lot of guys who know their stuff targeting a lot of AM guys. So something to look out for, but I'm doing well and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, we are happy to have you for sure. And yeah, once it starts warming up, that's kind of when I start paying more attention into the golf season. It's always hard when it's freezing cold outside and you're like watching guys golf in warm weather and short sleeves, and that's always just kind of like it's a little bit of a tease. But anyway, we're kind of trending towards that. So yeah, and like I said, we'll be working through some things. We'll get the show dialed in the over the next couple weeks. It'll be a working, living project, right? So, as we kind of get into this Houston Open kicking off tomorrow morning, what are some of the key features of this course that you can tell us about? Um, what to kind of look for here at the Memorial.
Sure. Before I start, I will say that I love trying to handicap golf, and the key word in that sentence is trying. There is, as many of you know, a lot of volatility, a lot of variance, a lot of long shots that can win, and I think there are some sports that lend themselves to a more traditional handicapping method, and then there's sports that we're trying to handicap right here on this show, hopefully every week. And so temper your expectations a little bit. I can only provide the information that I feel is valuable in making informed decisions. Other people are going to tell you other things. So I just want to give that clear message that this is not the easiest thing to approach from a betting and analytical standpoint because so much can happen over the course of the 72 holes. So if we look at this course, this is not a course that has been in the works or in the PGA schedule for very long. They played here in 2022 in November, which is a bit odd. They played last year here. 2023 was like that season was counted for November. It's just kind of been a weird historical run. But as far as what we know about this course, the most important thing for this course is the strokes gained putting. This is the third most important course in terms of the correlated success to strokes gained putting. Only two more courses on the PGA are more valued in that category. Strokes gained tee to green ranks 10th. Strokes gained total ranks 8th. Around the green ranks 7th. So all of these things to say, this is very much an accuracy and short game course. Driving distance, this is 32. Driving accuracy, 20. So approach to the green is 43rd. So it's quite a shift in what I think we've seen so far this year, where the last few weeks it's been who can drive the ball far, who can drive the ball straight, and who can get within 10 feet from 180 yards out. And this is kind of flipping that on its head and saying who's going to make the 10 to 12 footers, who's going to scramble well, who's going to avoid bogeys and convert birdies, which you want to do on every course. But this course has proven statistically that those things matter more.
Sure, yeah, and it's always helpful, to kind of look into that course profile and see who fits in, right? Because, yeah, as you said, look, greens in regulation, making birdies, that's always going to put you in a good position. Fairways, greens, things like that. But as I think you can agree, it's certainly a lot more important at some courses, more so than others. Accuracy can kind of fluctuate as far as how important that accuracy is off the tee from place to place. So yeah, that's what kind of the things that we'll be diving into here on a weekly basis. So with that in mind, I guess, what kind of history have we seen here at this course, and what can we expect on that front?
Sure. And I want to double down on some of these stats because those were kind of the
Yeah, for
overall. But
sure.
when I look at the secondary stats, I just want to stress this because it's almost comical. This course ranks first in terms of stats that matter in 5 categories. Those categories are average distance of putts made, putting average, putts from over 25 feet, putts from 10 to 15 feet, and scrambling. So, and then you go to the secondary categories and third, and there's just putting sprinkled throughout. So it is just, I wish Denny McCarthy was playing because he has been scorching with the putter. He's always been one of the better putters on tour, and I don't know where he is. I didn't do the research. I just don't see him on the odds screen. I'm a little disappointed because I think Denny McCarthy would have been a great spot here with how well he can roll it. So I am a little disappointed there. But if you can find a guy who can get hot with the putter or fade guys who have struggled, which we'll talk about, that can be good. So as far as course history, um, Tony Finau has had a lot of success at this course, one of the best profiles historically, but I don't love his form. And as a golfer myself, I know that I can, shoot well over my handicap one day and then come back the next and play okay. I know that it can be night and day depending on the week, but when it comes to my betting, I like form maybe a little bit more than other people. So when I look at Tony Finau, I don't have any confidence in him, even though he loves this course and the stats say he loves this course. So if you're someone who doesn't care about form and you're someone who says, give me somebody who's used to this place, who's played well here, Tony Finau's your guy, play him straight, play him top 10, whatever. I'm personally not touching it. Scotty Scheffler has played here the most of anyone in this field at 16 rounds. Mackenzie Hughes is actually tied with him. Jason Day, Wyndham Clark, Aaron Rye round out some of the top spots. Again, Scheffler is a Texas guy. This is in Texas. If you like to play a narrative, then maybe you want to go Scotty Scheffler. And of course, he's never bad to have on the card anyway, if you can stomach the price, which plus 375 is the best place. I saw him at Hard Rock. I know not necessarily the best book to discuss when they're pretty heavy on the limits and not everybody has them available, but you're going to find Scotty about 350 anywhere you look.
Yeah, and you mentioned the price there, but when we get kind of on the back end of the show, we'll talk through when we get into best bets. We also kind of always like to eventually we'll get into like, hey, here's some guys that we like from a DFS perspective. And I think over the past 2 years, you've seen with Scheffler, there was for quite a while, I always felt like, well, he's immediately off the board for me because it's too expensive,
He's cost
right?
so much. Yeah.
But when you keep winning and you keep finishing in the top 5 every single time, it was kind of like, just name pay any price, because if you don't have the cost of not having him, was actually more detrimental than the price impact. So,
Yep.
just and those are, like I said, it's always interesting to talk about. And like you said, as far as course fits, course guys who like certain courses versus form, I think is always an interesting conversation because on the one hand, you could say, hey, this guy is a train wreck right now. I don't want to get in front of that. On the other hand, you could say, hey, maybe this is a good get right spot where he can kind of turn things around. He's comfortable here. He's always played well here. Maybe this is a place that he can find a little comfort and be able to right the ship. So, just I guess another way that you can kind of always weigh those type of factors. Um, but again, provide the information, put it all out there, talk through it, and figure out how much weight you want to put into those. So I know you talked about some of the key stats. Are there any like secondary stats or dare I say tertiary stats that that maybe you would look kind of digging in a little deeper on some of these guys?
Sure. Yeah. Outside the putting and the short game, the secondary and tertiary stats, you got approach from the mid range, 150 and in, which for me maybe that's mid range. For these guys, they got a sand wedge or something else. So it's still maybe their short game. What is interesting to me, and I think is a bit unusual in terms of the course profile, is there are 5 par 3s on this course. It is a par 70, so 5 3s, 3 5s, and then you do the math. What is that? 10 4s. So par 3 scoring is big. If you like a guy with those mid to long irons and good putting who can make birdies on 2 or 3 of those par 5s, I think that could pay dividends. So I don't know the stat, but I can't imagine there are too many courses out there with this par 70 setup that we see here. So that's kind of another angle that I would look at if you're looking to build either DFS lineups or take some outrights.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I don't know if you. I can't. I don't think you mentioned it, but guys who have like played a lot here. You talked about guys who like it here a little bit. Guys like Finau. But is there anybody who maybe sticks out to you as far as guys who have played a lot here? Because as we're looking at the field, it's not. I wouldn't call it a weak field. I mean, look, the two probably best top two guys, if not. I mean, Scotty's, I think, unquestionably number one. Rory's in form, and he's kind of cranking right now. And
Yep.
after that, there's a little bit of a fall off. But I don't know. It's not like a tournament of dogs, right? So, what guys have maybe seen this course a lot? Maybe have quite a bit more experience than the rest of the field here.
Sure. Yeah. To your point, we don't typically see the two top dogs play without sort of those mid guys. Colin Morikawa, Hovland, Justin Thomas, guys who were competing last week to win it all aren't here this week, but Scheffler's here and Rory's here. I wonder to some degree how much, and maybe this is me just trying to fit something that's not supposed to be fit, but if this isn't in Texas, is Scotty there? If this is the
Yeah.
field, if this is the makeup, but it's not at home, does Scotty play? I don't know. So I have here, and I'll get better at the graphic sharing. We're gonna have some graphics next week
We'll
that you
get the
guys can look
IT
along.
team on it.
Yeah. So I'll take the blame there for this trial run, this first show. So if we look, I have it sorted by 8 rounds minimum and strokes gained on this course. Tony Finau's number one. He's played 14 rounds here. He's gained almost 2.5 strokes total to the field, and he's green and off the tee approach around the green. But he's green and everything. Scotty is number two with 16 rounds played. Aaron Rye is at 3 with 12. Steven Yeager, who is the defending champion, I believe, won it last year. He is 4, gaining just under 2 strokes to the field. Mackenzie Hughes, I sigh because if we want to go back to form, and we'll talk about the model in a second, and we'll talk about what I have for my official plays, and Mackenzie Hughes is one that I plan to watch live. We'll just put it that way. I will add a brief point here as to my betting practice and style. Typically, if you use RecBooks, DraftKings, and FanDuel during the live rounds, will offer boosts. So I often use those as a little portfolio builder, a little hedge spy. Give me a 20% boost, $10 max. Also kind of gauge how the day is going, how the course is going. So Mackenzie Hughes and Aaron Rye, not to give you a spoiler, two guys who appear high on this, but two guys, once I ran some models, didn't appear as high as I would like them to have. But guys, I'll monitor. And then after that, I mean, it's a brutal fall off. Joel Damon's on there, or Joel Damon. It's kind of he's cracked some leaderboards this year, but again, nothing that jumps off the page. Maverick McNeely we'll talk about. Davis Riley, Alex Smalley, I think is a pretty popular pick this week. I hear a lot of people talking about Alex Smalley. Was in contention 2 weeks ago. And, I actually was going to give that as a play on the show, on the Wolf Sports show on Wednesday. But all these college basketball guys, man, they love to talk ball. And I just didn't get a chance to give my Alex Smalley play. But I did hit him a top 20, like 5-1. So that was good. So I think a lot of people will be looking at him. Lastly, Jason Day, we'll talk about. He's gained 1.1 strokes here in 14 rounds. So to your point, it is top heavy, but what is one name I didn't mention on that list? That would be Rory. I'm not a Rory guy. Are you a Rory guy, Zach?
I'll say I'm not one of the guys that hates Rory. I'm also like, I don't find myself often rooting for him either. I'm kind of indifferent. I rarely find where, he's not somebody who's on my card, doesn't make it on my card very often, doesn't make it into a DFS lineup very often. So I'm just kind of like
I hear you. I'm right
almost
there with
indifferent.
you.
I respect his game. He's obviously very good. Like I said, I don't hate him. I'm just kind of,
Yeah. For what it's worth, he could very well win. Obviously, he's suited to win. Obviously, we're going to look at the model in a second. You're going to see his name a lot. I just think his strengths are not as relevant as they were in previous weeks. If we think about him off the tee, if we think about what he can do there, but of course he's been putting well. So if he can bring it all together, then sure, you're going to see him up there on Sunday. But I'm as a spoiler, I'm not only not betting him this week. You will probably never hear me endorse Rory McIlroy to win. It may be a personal thing, it may be a numbers thing, but I'm with you. I don't dislike him, but I don't love the guy. So
I just
that's
always
what I
find that
got.
he's a little too out of range for me
Yeah,
to ever like get behind. Like I said, it's not like I'm only taking guys I like. I mean, I have no problem. I mean, I will regularly take Patrick Reed. He's on my Masters card almost every single year at Augusta, and I'm never rooting for him. But
yeah,
it's about trying to if you're trying to make money, you got to back guys that you don't like. By all means, especially guys that nobody likes, because then maybe not many people are behind that. But anyway, yeah, I wonder how much with and I think I misspoke earlier talking about Tony Finau and then Scotty Scheffler. I believe I combined them into the former NFL tight end Tony Scheffler. I'm not sure or if I just did that in my head, but anyway, I wanted to correct that in case I did. But Scotty Scheffler, yeah, you mentioned playing in Texas. I'm sure that factors in. I wonder how much of like his hand injury, it's like he's trying to kind of work through some. Because look, I mean, even in out of form,
yeah,
Scheffler is still like just ridiculous. And when he's these days where it's like, oh well, I just can't figure out. I can't string it together. It's like, oh yeah, man, you were only like 3 under. What a horrible day at the
right.
office, but uh anyway, I
And I'm
wonder how
noticing
much of
he's
it.
kind of a slow starter. As
Yeah.
someone who watches this live, and unfortunately, the market knows this, I think, to some degree, because he can be 6 shots back on day 1 and he's the favorite. He can
Yeah.
be 8 shots back on day 2 and he's still plus 300. He could be going into the last day and he's in 14th and his top 5 is minus 400. So, I noticed that a lot of times, especially day 4, especially Sunday, he's a religious guy. I don't know if that plays into it. Maybe he has his time with the Lord in the morning, and then he comes to play. I don't know what it is, but Sundays he shows up, and unfortunately, everybody Vegas knows it, and it's a little bit disappointing to me because I always think I'm going to get a good price, and then I look and I'm like, it's not feasible. So I was trying to look up Scotty's stats real quick just to see. Um, Yeah, I mean, at the Arnold Palmer, he lost 5 strokes to the field, which may be the worst in his history. Oh, he lost 6 at the US Open, but he lost 5 strokes to the field and finished 11th. Yeah, it's just like
Man, get it
when he
together. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
figure it out, man.
right. And yeah, and putting. So if he dare I say, if he actually plays to his average, he could win every week. So he's yet to fully do that. Last week round 2 wasn't so good at the Players. He Last week was the first week that I saw him visibly frustrated. He's
Mhm.
very much the antithesis of Jordan Spieth and Bryson DeChambeau in that way, where you kinda I guess it helps when you play as well as he does. You don't have a lot of room to get frustrated, but I saw a little bit of emotion out of him, which was one of the first times I'd ever seen that. So, um, I don't know if we'll see that this week. I think he'll come to play this week.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if that's the thing, it's, if you see him in any poor form, if we even really wanna call it that, it either doesn't last long or, and by not lasting long, I mean, like, 2 or 3 holes, or, if he has a rough day, I mean, he's probably not, and I think that's why, as you mentioned, even on some of the live numbers, they don't really, I don't know that they're interested in taking on much, Scotty money. It doesn't seem like, they're in the bid. It's not like they never really wanna be welcoming of the, Scotty Scheffler money.
Yep.
So, anyway, so heading on to next, talking about maybe some guys who are in form, who might be a fit here and who are in good form. Because I think, I mean, look, we would agree that, look, he is the favorite for a reason, maybe slightly out of form, but, I know you mentioned Finau is a guy who is great here, maybe a little bit out of form. So I guess looking at the other side of that is who would be good fit and in form, where
Yeah.
both stars align.
Um, so if you want me to spoil my favorite pick on the card right now, I will. All right, and this goes with both setup for course and form. And I haven't heard a lot of sharp people talking about him, and that scares me as someone who is price sensitive, but also enjoys the handicapping bottom up side of this. I like, in some ways, I like to get the validation from other sharp minds. Like if my card matches somebody else, I'm like, okay, I'm okay here. And I haven't seen this name out, and that name is Michael Kim, and he is someone who also a Texas guy. He resides, I believe, in Houston. So this is very home field for him, but has played really well. And I'll pull up his data so that way I can give you some actual facts here. Um, Give me 1 second. I'm not in the right spot. Um, but I was looking at him this morning,
Sure.
and I'm trying to do two things at once, and my brain is not suited for that. You got a commercial break you could do,
Yeah,
Tim?
yeah, yeah. Well, this break is brought to you by the Green Means Go Betting. So be sure to check out his YouTube page, check out his um, account on X as well. He does more than just golf, but look, we wanted to talk a little bit about golf. We wanted to, like I said, put together a little bit of a weekly preview here, for both the majors and I wouldn't call them minor tournaments, but the lesser crowd, maybe not as stacked fields because, as somebody myself that likes to, I wouldn't consider myself a golfing expert by any stretch, but I do pay attention. I do like to get some money down, and at the very least, I like to throw together some DFS um, teams from time to time. I think that's a good, fun way to follow it. I don't generally take a lot of outrights. I usually dabble a lot in the head-to-heads, the, um, top 20s. That's kind of where my bread gets buttered most of the time is like DFS, head-to-heads, and top 20s. I kinda stay within that range for the most part. Some guys, some more pricey guys, I might go up to I mean, I bet Xander Schauffele top 20 every single tournament, like, ever for until it was out of range, and then now I just had to up that into he's my top 10 guy now. So I had to kind of up that ante a little bit. But he continues to deliver for me. So yeah, early preview to
I'll come
my
prepared. I got a lot of outright. Well, I got a handful of outrights, and then I got a couple of top leaderboard placement guys, and then I got one sort of niche
yeah, I have a
market maker.
boring way. People always like to
Oh,
bet outrights. That's usually where people like to fire and get those big payouts. But
yeah, but it's certainly more tilting when you got the guy at 54 round leader with 2-stroke lead, and he's sitting there for 60 to 1, and then he
melts
shows up on
down.
Sunday and bogey, and you're like, ah.
Yeah,
So
I'm done.
yeah. Okay, Michael Kim. Um, and the more I look at this, the more I'm convincing myself I love it, and I already loved it. So I don't know how I could love it more. This year, second, 13, 13, 6, 4, cut at the Players Championship, and then last week 28th. If we look at his stat profile, the only this is, I mean, if you show me this chart, which next week I'll have ready for you guys. So again, I apologize. And you say guess this player, I'm questioning if it's Scotty Scheffler in terms of just what I'm seeing. He has gained strokes off the tee approach, around the green, putting, and tee to green. Every major statistical category in the PGA, Michael Kim has gained strokes to the field in every category in every round this year or every tournament this year, except the Players. And this course is not the Players. This course is not the length. It's not the rough is not as penal. He was cut there. Off the tee, he was -2 to the field. Off the tee here, off the tee there, totally different, night and day. So when I look at his putting, he's gaining strokes putting around the green, gaining strokes. So Michael Kim is form and he's course. And so if you want somebody who's both, and you give me one guy to take, I'll take Michael Kim. So that's my pick there. If you want to look at some of the model simulations, like we can put those on the screen if you want to go that route now. Does that work for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, fired in.
Make sure I'm on the right thing here. So how this works, and again, this is not the way that I would typically choose to display it. So understand that this is, as Zach has said, maybe the rough draft. I promise as we move forward, we'll get a little better at the
Let's see if we
graphics.
can get it like.
Yeah, you mess with it. Oh, that's a little off. Is it too small?
It was on the other one. I felt like it was a bit small, but I don't know. If you can see it, you can see the main guys, right?
Well, you can't see the 5 times bucket on this one, I think, because it's off on the left on my screen.
No worries. We can go to this.
There we go. Okay, we'll go with that. That looks pretty good. So how this model works is you can weight different statistics. So what I did is I set up 5 different trials, all with different weightings that I felt were relevant to this course. We talked about putting. Obviously, putting was included, par 3 scoring, scrambling, strokes gained. All kinds of stats were weighted out of 100 differently. And then the model generates a list of guys based on those statistics, based on their tour history. Okay. So when I ran the first 5 simulations, players inside the top 15 that popped up. So every time I run the simulation, 15 guys ranked 1 to 15 based on what I said I valued show up. Rory appeared in the top 15 all 5 times. Now, look, I just was on record saying I'm not a Rory guy, and I won't be taking Rory here. If we want to, maybe that's too much of the personal in me saying that, but if you want to disregard the model or disregard me and trust the model likes Rory, even though I don't. Maverick McNeely showed up every time as well, and so did Mackenzie Hughes, as we mentioned. 4 times, Seamus Power, Jacob Bridgman, Sam Ryder, and Wyndham Clark. 3 times, you see Scotty Scheffler showed up 3 times. I was trying to think about why, and I think, I said he lost 5 strokes putting a few tournaments ago. Obviously, we hear the broadcasters say every week, Scotty's one weakness is that putter. He's changed putters. When he gets that putter figured out, he'll win every tournament. So I think the putter is Scotty's problem. But again, he can turn it on any week. And so if that scares you, I know I've spoken about how important that is. I'm not worried about it this week, but that is probably why he's only 3. 2 times Tony Finau shows up, Jason Day and Aaron Rai. I think Finau gets a bump because of his course history here, because a couple times I was including stats on course history and things of that nature. And then handful of guys with 1. So then what I did, and if I haven't said it, I'll say it again. I'm going to fix this so it's more digestible to the crowd. So I apologize. I ran it 9 times. I did 4 more simulations, and sorry. Let's go. I don't know why it's saying 10 to 11 now, because it certainly wasn't 10 to 11. Anyway, this is how often they showed up again. So Rory and Jacob Bridgman showed up the most times, Ryder, Power, Griffin, and so on and so forth. So then what I'll show you, and this was not something I was going to show at the beginning. This is my behind the scenes handiwork. I mean, this is the blueprint, guys. You're getting a
Peeling
look.
back the curtain.
Yeah, you're getting the open and honest green means go situation here. So like I mentioned, when each of the 9 models spits out 1 to 15, 1 being the strongest golfer, 15 being the 15th strongest golfer, I weighted those inversely in terms of points. So 1 got 15 points, 2 got, so in these, it's showing you how many times they appear. But if Scotty Scheffler appears 3 times and he's first every time, and Seamus Power appeals 4 times and he's 15th every time, well, yeah, Scotty Scheffler's probably the better option because he's beating everybody 3 times, whereas Seamus is being beat by, you get the idea. So this gives you a more weighted look at some of the names. So Rory, his weighted score was 165. So according to the model, Rory is the best golfer for this week. Am I going to take him? No. Would I even take him head to head against Scotty? Because that market's out there and I believe Rory's plus money. I'm not going to. You may choose to do that. Scotty's 2, Maverick McNeely comes in not only 3rd, but incredibly high in terms of the points that he's possessing, 131. Then a fairly sizable drop off to Jacob Bridgman, Sam Ryder, and again, not to spoil the bets that I will be sharing in just a second, but I bet you can guess by looking at this chart who I decided to target. And so we can go there whenever. If you want to comment on this or ask for some clarification, I'll take a pause and let you get a word in.
Yeah, no. I think this is all good. Like I said, as we, we'll refine. We'll continue to, peel back the curtain a little bit. You can't show all the secrets, but some, we'll leave breadcrumbs and we'll let some secrets be revealed from time to time. So, yeah, some people might find that more interesting than others for sure. But, I think it is kind of important to be like, hey, look, here's how this, because again, I don't think either of us are pretending to be experts. Neither of us have anything for sale or behind a paywall here. We're just, you know, but I think it's important to kind of talk through the process. Hey, here's how we got here. We're not just picking guys. We're not just firing at the board, shooting from the hip, making things up. This is, hey, here's some information that you can use how you see fit. Here's how we choose to use it, right? So we have this information. You can't argue the info. It's just data. It exists. We will take this data. This is how we interpret it. This is how we apply it. You can do the same, however you see fit as well. So then, yeah, I guess taking some of this data into consideration, what are maybe some picks that you have that you like, that you are considering, maybe some that you've already bet? What are you kind of looking at on that front?
Sure. We'll just go to the next thing and we can slowly work our way down and talk through this. If that's all right with you.
Yeah,
Again, I want
yeah.
to echo exactly what Zach said. I've been in the sports betting world for 3 and 4 years since we were legalized and since I was of age. And I've learned a lot. And I think I gravitate towards sharp betters and sharp betting and I see the value in that. But I think a lot of times sharp bettors are more price sensitive than they are matchup handicap sensitive. And I have origination and bottom up betting and handicapping kind of a soft spot in my heart. And so I always find myself in the middle of, I don't want to claim that I'm sharp in any way. I don't want to say that I necessarily have an edge in a 60-1 play on Maverick McNeely outright, right? Um, but it it's it's well intentioned, it's thought out, it's data driven, um, and we may lose every play on this card, and we may lose every week. But I just want to be clear that golf is, I mean, all sports are hard to bet to some degree, but golf is particularly, as you can see looking at these odds, difficult. I am not claiming to have an edge or be sharp, but I am claiming to have put in some work and hopefully can add value to your spare time on your lunch break or to your portfolio for the Houston Open, whatever it may be. So that's one caveat I would like to give. I don't typically
Yeah.
love giving out picks,
Well, look,
but here,
anybody who does like to golf on their own understands that, uh, some days you have it, some days you don't, and nobody really gets to pick and choose when those days are either. So
right?
that gets decided for you. But
Yeah,
yeah, anyway, I think we can kind of get into some things that you do like.
sure.
Um,
Yeah. So if we look at, we'll skip the outrights for now. Sam Ryder appeared often on the model. His form is okay. Again, uh, it's early in the PGA season. It's been cold. It's been windy. I think you're going to see some of that again this week. I think you're going to see delays. It's not pristine conditions by any means, but Sam Ryder's been out there, and I think he fits well for this course. And I have him not only outright at 150-1, but top 20. I think is a great price at plus 375. That's on Hard Rock. Other books have him between 320 and that number 375. I line shopped all these with the books that I have. So I'm trying to provide you guys with the best line that I have available. I would encourage you always to line shop and get the best price. So I really like that number for a half unit on Sam Ryder. I know we talked about Michael Kim. I have him outright, but top 10 at 375. He's been top 10 50% of the weeks that he's been out there. And I know that, again, just basing a bet on pure history is not the best thing you can do. But again, course sets up well. Houston guy, playing well, good form, putting well. I like him outright and top 10. And then before we talk about some of these other outrights, this one is only on FanDuel. And I've noticed that a lot of books are removing make and miss cut. Um, there weren't a lot of books that had just raw make cut, miscut. DraftKings
mm,
does. Their numbers aren't great. FanDuel, maybe it's a state by state thing. Maybe wasn't awake when I was looking this morning. They had these make the cut specials, and I was scrolling through them, and I liked all of these guys to some degree. All Scheffler, Aaron Rai, Michael Kim, and Bridgman, three of which I have above on the outrights. All four of which popped up on the model frequently, all to make the cut at 220. I went over to DraftKings. Now I'm not advertising for line shopping versus only one rec book, but for what it's worth, when you combine all four of those guys on DraftKings into a parlay to make the cut, you get plus 169. So if we just, this is not good practice typically, but if we say that DraftKings had fair value on the make and miss cut lines, which I don't believe, I think they're probably juicing those pretty bad, but this is a good price compared to that. I didn't have a ton of other things to comp it to. Regardless, I like to play from a price standpoint, and I like it from a handicapping standpoint. So I got that on here for a half unit. Um, so those are the non-outrights. And then I know you said, Zach, you're not an outright guy, so I did not come prepared to feed your appetite. So I apologize.
no,
I'll here's what I'll say. Any guy that I have on the outright, I am comfortable with a top whatever,
yeah,
but I'm going to let the better decide the price. So if you look at Maverick McNeely, 60-1, and you look at Alex Smalley, 6-1. Both of these guys are probably going to be very similar in their top 10, in their top 20. Typically, when you have a price to win outright that matches another guy's, they're going to kind of align throughout. So, you know, I would love if all of these guys finish top 20, and I would be fine endorsing any of these guys to finish top 20. If just because I say
Mhm.
Wyndham Clark is outright, obviously price matters, but you know, uh, that's getting into the weeds a little bit, and we can maybe talk about that in another time. But Maverick McNeely, Jacob Bridgman, both outright. Best book that I found here. Sam Ryder, book I found here. Okay, so here's my comment about Scotty. I don't like. I don't. I don't typically like it. I know that there are books that offer pre-live promotions. I do not have those. I know ESPN for a while did a bet 25 on a player, get a portion back if they finish top 5, 10, whatever. I think those are good spots for the top of the board guys because you get some pretty plus EV insurance in getting your bet back if they finish high. Regardless, because of how it sets up, because of what I've seen out of Scotty, I feel comfortable playing him for a unit. However, I have this little caveat here live. If I believe he's in, I believe he's in the afternoon wave. Let me triple check. Yeah, he's in the afternoon wave. So this is where you're going to get a little interesting tidbit. You're not going to find this everywhere. So hopefully this can provide you value. The reports are that PM is either going to be delayed or it's going to be messy. High winds, worse conditions. The morning should be good. So let's say the morning wave goes off and good scores are getting posted and the leaders -4, -5. And then Scotty is slated to go off. The winds pick up. Maybe you see Scotty drop to 5, 6-1. I don't know. And I know we talked previously at the beginning of the show that we don't technically see him often drop in the odds that we expect. An option there is live. If you don't like that 385 and you want to kind of play the weather, play the situation and take a risk there, maybe you can get him at a better price since he is in that afternoon wave. It's a thought. I locked him in at one unit at 385. I'm comfortable with that. I think he's set up well. So that's what I'm doing. You guys can take it there. Any thoughts so far? Any comments so far?
No, I mean, I kind of think I like it, and it just kind of goes to show, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. I mean, everybody kind of has their own deal. Like I guess when I was saying that I don't do as many outright. I mean, ultimately, whenever I am putting together, I might get 4 or 5 or guys on a top 20. Maybe not that many, but you know what I'm saying, like 3 or 4 guys on a top 20, and then I think it is kind of important to maybe. From time to time sprinkle on those guys to also win outright because yeah, it's great to get your top 20 ticket to cash, but if they win, it pays the same. So I don't know, you'd
Right.
always be kicking yourself. So I think but this is, I think, golf more. I mean, unit management's always important, but I think in golf especially because you can really overextend yourself. You can really just kind of start to get. I mean, look, I'm never going to be on a random game have 15 to 20 bets on any one event,
Right.
but when it comes to golf, I will from time to time, whether it's head to heads, whether it's you know, um top 20s, top make miss cut, there's just so many more markets. I mean, there's countless numbers of ways that you can kind of play this stuff. And that's why I think it's just kind of important to figure out, hey, what makes sense? You can't just go out there, and even if you're not like a heavy bet, you can't just go out there and just put $50 on every single bet that you do because you could, find yourself in trouble. And, I know that the math doesn't work out on a lot of that either, where clearly you can't win all the, I mean, these outrights, you can only win one.
Yep.
So it's just kind of making sure that you understand how to properly account for that, how to properly, get yourself in a position where you can, and there's all sorts of tools out there to do that. You can use betting calculators, you can use, different ways to make sure that you are putting yourself in a best position to still come out profitable. Because look, golf is a very difficult sport to not only play but to bet on. So I don't know. Just wanted to give that as just like that's why I like to diversify. That's what ultimately I meant. It's like diversifying, getting in a couple different ways, but making sure that those ways have some overlap. That you're not tying yourself down too much to where it's like, oh man, I really kind of like screwed this up where I won way more bets than I lost, but I lost money still,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So just kind of making sure that if you do, um, if you're somebody that just, like I said, another reason to not just shoot from the hip, have some sort of tracking method that you use to make sure that everything checks out and that you're not kind of getting overextended in a way that would make it to where, you're, I guess, somewhat of a reverse middle, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like you can lose everything or win nothing, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess I'm rambling on now, but just make sure
No,
that
yeah,
you're kind of. That's what
yeah,
I
I can
meant. So like if
sure. Yeah,
but
absolutely. I
you
can
have
speak
some
to
good
that.
unit distribution here as well. So obviously you're well aware of how that all works. But
Yeah,
it
I
sounds
can
like, yeah. Go ahead.
I can speak to how I process this in terms of a unit perspective. And again, I'm not saying that this is the way.
The way, yeah,
Yeah, I think this is better than a degenerate total recreational way. And I think there are sharp minds who will look at this and they'll say, "Ah, this could be optimized," and that's fine. I find myself again tugged at from both the degenerate and the sharp perspectives. Simply, at least for this card, I went. If you add up the units, it's 4 units total, and I like to think of that as a unit a day. I got a unit on Thursday, all the way to Sunday. So across the tournament, I'm in 4 units, which I think is a pretty modest amount in terms of what people typically bet in a given day or night. And if you look at the non-outrights, if I hit all three, if Ryder's top 20, Kim's top 10, and these guys make the cut, we're in the green. If Scotty wins outright and I lose everything else, we're down 0.15 units. So yeah, I like to think that this is balanced in terms of if we lose completely, we lost 1 unit a day throughout the course of the tournament. It's the price of the entertainment. We'll get them next week. And if we hit any of the outrights, we're great. And we have some cushion with the top 10, top 20, and make the cut. So that's how I approach it. But I will say, as the tournament goes, if DraftKings, FanDuel, those are typically the only books these days that give me promotions. If they give me a live profit boost, I'll plug holes. I'll look and I'll look at the leaderboard and see who's playing well and get a better idea of who I like live, and I'll fire on some insurance bets, if you will. So that's typically the only live betting I do, and why you see down here, we'll monitor live. Aaron Ryan, Mackenzie Hughes are guys that I'll have my eye on because I do like them, but they didn't quite make the cut in terms of the official card.
yeah, for sure. And like I said, I mean, next week, and I think moving forward, I'll myself even um, get a little deeper in on some of the DFS stuff and kind of how I like to put those together. I didn't get as much into it for today, but we'll certainly fine tune that.
Yeah,
Work
and
with
I'll come prepared next
Yeah,
week for that
work
as
with the
well.
team.
Yeah, the model can generate lineups and things of that nature. So absolutely, I'll include that. I was a big DFS guy
Yeah.
prior to sports betting because it was legal in my state before sports betting went live. It's 18, right? It's 18 only. You
I
don't
think
need
so.
21.
It's funny because it's like golf is the only sport that I really do it for. Just
Yeah,
because I think it's actually to me, I mean, look, I still get some bets down for here and there, but I feel like for me, it's like kind of almost, and even then, I still diversify the same way. I do a whole lot of like double ups, 50/50s for the most part, and then I'll do a couple. I mean,
do you have success with those?
yeah, yes and no. I mean, I do feel like I do pretty well with the double ups for sure. I
There's
do
nothing
like
worse than posting a double up lineup that would've
yeah.
cashed in a
Well,
GPP
but I
and
was
then
gonna say I always do those too. So like I'll
okay.
put, but I diversify the amounts. I'm not just entering every single $100 thing, but like I'll kind of throw a little bit on some of the crazy tournament things, right? Always make sure you get into some of the free things. And
Yeah, they
then
they have good decent
right,
it's
so you
always
can
worth
kind of just
checking the
test things out and like figure out
yeah,
your way a little bit, figure out what you like. I mean, get in some of the free ones. They even have like some 25-cent entry ones if you just want. They call them like a jukebox contest, right? Where you can just kind of like get in there and you're not really you can win, but you're not losing much. You're just kind of experimenting. You can kind of figure out what works for you that way before you want to start putting down some real cheese on things. But yeah, like I said, I diversify it the same way that I do if I'm like betting the card, right? Where I'll have little bits here and there on some bigger things. I generally like to stick to like single entry. Not always, but like either single entry or like some of like the 3 entry stuff I'm okay with.
that's
Um,
wise.
yeah, that's really kind of where I like to stay. Um, I play it conservative, but like I like to make sure that I'm winning consistently as opposed to just like always just trying to win the $1 million challenge, right? Because I,
Yeah.
I realize it's way, way less likely to happen. But yeah, I do generally do pretty well with some of that stuff. And although I will say sometimes that you can get if you're betting on some of the same guys to do the exact same stuff in your DFS, sometimes you can have some swings where you're like either way, way up or way, way down.
Right.
If everything goes well or nothing goes well.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I try to focus. I just feel like I'm generally pretty good at like picking guys who can make the cut. And really, in most of these cases with DFS stuff, if you get your whole team across the cut line, like you're going to be in pretty good shape. Like, as everybody makes the cut, and then like you have at least one guy who's up near the top 10, you can generally be in pretty good shape. So that's kind of how I like to look at those.
Yeah. I'm the king of 5 out of 6 make the cut, and then
Yeah.
I'm hanging out on that cut the paid line back and forth, and yeah, I know that all too well. I
Yeah.
like to look at the usually I think a lot of sports fans are NBA, NFL, and even MLB, and I think that DraftKings specifically will give out some decent promotions, especially as we approach the Masters
Oh,
for
yeah.
DFS. The past few weeks, I've gotten some um, looks like targeted promotions, but there have been some PGA related. I mean, they're not massive. They're bet a $5 lineup, get your insurance or whatever. So it's worth checking out. I kind of moved away from DFS when sports betting went live. I prefer just beating one line as opposed to not only picking the right player, but making sure it's not the same player that everybody else picks. I feel like you're battling the public versus the player in DFS. You got to beat two things. So I kind of moved away. But golf is the one that I play the most of. So it's worth a look in the promo section.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So I don't know, any other closing thoughts that you had here? I mean, I guess some of my takeaways as it pertains to this when we talked to about the field, talked about the course. I think distance. Where you're going to want to look for some bombers. You're going to want to look for some guys who can get up and down, and then I think this is one of those where like maybe go a little bit deeper down the board to find some guys. Just because, like you said, there's quite a big drop off after those first couple of big names. It's a pretty big drop off. So with that being said, I think you're going to be. This is one of those that's a little safer to kind of go dig a little deeper into some lesser known names, I guess.
Yep.
So I guess that's kind of my ultimate takeaway here. Anything else that you had as a closing thought, or anything else before we wrap up?
Not in addition to this, I will say that I'm uh, I'm happy that I got the chance to do this. I look forward to doing this in the coming weeks. If anybody has any comments, I'd like to see X, Y, or Z. I'd prefer you talk about PQRR, any feedback. I am open to, and I'm sure don't want to speak for Zach, but he seems pretty receptive to the feedback.
Oh
So
yeah.
I want to make a product that people find value in, either from information perspective, betting perspective, you know, two dark haired guys with some facial hair, slightly graying.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
A
speak for
touch of
just
gray.
myself, but
Touch of gray.
uh, yeah, yeah, I'm doing this full time. I love every minute of it. I'm excited to talk baseball as that gets up as well. So
Yeah.
I'm here for a good time and a long time
Yeah, no,
is
for
what I'd like
sure.
to end
For
with.
sure. And yeah, like I said, we'll be looking at some of these golf ones on Wednesdays, kind of as a last look before the tournaments start to kick off on Thursdays. So, yeah, looking forward to this. There'll be obviously different varying interests based on the popularity of the tournament, but hey, we're kind of cutting our teeth a little bit on these ones, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll once we get into Augusta, and then that's when I think we kind of really get into the meat and potatoes of the rest of the season. So yeah, thanks again, Green Means Go. Check out his pages, YouTube, on X as well. Good luck, everybody out there, with all your bets and your DFS. And thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Oh, well, one other thing, we have our best bets space tonight for March Madness as we enter into the Sweet 16. So check that out tonight. I believe it's at 9 p.m. Eastern. But outside of that, yeah, no, guys,